support that crap anymore.
Exactly. Okay, we got the live stream just started for Facebook.
Okay.
I'm going to put that up here just for the time being. Everybody's going to kind of mingle in and say hello and all that cool stuff.
Phone?
Yeah, this will be on my phone here. It'll be on, if you got Facebook.
I do, yeah, it's going to load it on it.
Okay. Yeah,
If you see me looking down, it's just because if I'm looking at, I'm just glancing down at it through Facebook. So I'm not somewhere else. I'm present and accounted for.
My help, there we go. My help, I had the right screen on.
Like I said, better you than me dealing with the tech today.
And there's Darielle Perry. Very good. She's with us. Cool.
Good, yay.
All right. Darielle, if you could do me a favor and boot up your Spreaker for me and kind of keep an ear open. Let me know what's happening there. She does a lot with Spreaker too. And I'm going to get this booted up real quick. I forgot I had a Toni Taylor. I'd drop an image on here.
Yeah.
Upload an image. I want to welcome everybody so far that's joining us. You can watch me here. I'm just kind of bling, of course. Let's see here. Looking for my photo. Let's see here. There it is. We got it. Okay. And I'm just getting ready to go live there on Spreaker. So, okay. Everybody, it's on. Let's see here. Looks like... I'm going to pull up my live stream real quick here on Facebook. I just want to wave hello to everybody so they can see me. Kind of a crazy thing we got going on here today, but it's going to work out just fine, I think. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. Everything's booted up, ready to go. Okay. All right. Hang with me here real quick, and we are going to go live on Spreaker, and then I will get right back to the live stream on Facebook. So here we go. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Closer Encounters. I am your host Clarence Mitchell, and we're coming to you live from somewhere in Minnesota. Closer Encounters is broadcasting live from Spreaker, and we are always live streaming on Facebook. Come check us out, www.facebook.com/Closer Encounters Radio, and please don't forget to like, follow, and share. Like to be a guest on Closer Encounters? Or do you know somebody who would like to be a guest on Closer Encounters? Please send us an email, closerencounters.info@gmail.com. That's Closer Encounters, tonytaylor.info@gmail.com. For everything Closer Encounters, check out our new webpage at www.closerencounters.space. Okay, and hello everybody, and welcome to Closer Encounters Radio Live. We are also on Facebook live streaming this evening with a very special guest, Toni Taylor. And here in just a few minutes, I'm going to switch. It seems though they may be out of business. I'm not sure what's actually happening there, but they sent me a letter and wanted me to switch over to Spreaker, and they're really, helping everybody out that's making the switch. So I'm not sure what the whole thing is there. The only downfall to this is I won't be able to take live calls like we used to on Blog Talk, but if you have a Skype account and you would like to add me on your Skype account, you can look me up at Closer Encounters on Skype, and we can actually talk to you via phone or via live message, or whatever. We can do it that way. Just don't use your video, just use your phone. So, if you do call in by chance during the live stream, please do not use your video, just use your microphone. Okay. Anyway, here we are. We are live running on Facebook. Everything looks good. So I'm going to introduce to you now our guest. This is Toni Taylor, and we got a heck of a show going on. Let me bring this down here and see if I can get this face to face here. And I'm hoping this is going to work out right. If I can get this the way I want to. Alright, I'm going to look at my monitor here real quick and see how we're looking. So I know we got a little bit of a time delay here, so I'm watching the other monitor. I got 3 computers going plus an iPhone going. And we may have to make some minor adjustments, but we'll see what happens here. So just waiting for it to catch up here on Facebook and see what it looks like here real quick. And I'm not going to be able to see, I can comment on the Facebook live stream, but it's going to be a delay, so just to let everybody know that. And here very quickly we should be able to see Toni here. I'm still talking on the microphone according to the Facebook Live. Kind of funny. But in the meantime, Toni, say hello and tell everybody what you're about and what's going on. If you would.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I super appreciate it. I'd say the briefest synapse is I started having very strange physical and not physical experiences happening to me a couple years ago. It seemed about time lots and lots of people started to notice that was happening. So what I did is just start documenting my experience. I call it the crystalline DNA activation or dormant DNA activation, light body integration. Every culture has kind of a different belief in how they look at that. So that's kind of my thing, is I just kind of document the physical process and try and help people understand it. I would say my blurb that I put out to everybody is I'm nobody's teacher. I'm just sharing my experience and my perspective. So that's what I would say.
Cool. Now, we invited a lot of people with the Morgellons symptoms and the problems that they have. And I wonder if you could give us a quick rundown on how it actually coincides with what you got, or is it the same thing or not the same thing, or is the definition wrong?
I think it's a broad subject. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think it's an onion. I think there's lots of different layers with that, and I think for me, I have a different perspective than a lot of people on Morgellons. I have released a video that I tried to sum it all up into one video. So if anybody wants to check that on my channel, I'm sure you'll have a link later. It's called the Morgellons equals crystalline DNA activation. And my personal belief is that Morgellons has been misdiagnosed. And obviously there's a blackout within the medical community in the United States at least. We couldn't even get the CDC to acknowledge it for a long time publicly, right? And then once they did, I mean, it's still, you go to a doctor and you try to say that you have Morgellons symptoms, good luck, And anybody who has Morgellons who's gone to a doctor knows exactly what I'm saying about that. Most doctors won't treat it, they won't diagnose it, they won't examine it, they won't have anything to do with it. They'll tell you have delusional parasitosis still. There's obviously an undercurrent with that. So when I started having these physical symptoms, when you look that up for certain symptoms, the only thing you were brought to is Morgellons. And the narrative that is, it just didn't work for me. When I can only say my personal experience, when I looked at this as a terrible disease and that I was going to die, which is pretty much, sharing pictures of lesions and all the terrible things that are coming out of your body, and it's just this undercurrent of, people are suffering, and they want to know why they're suffering. And these are physical symptoms that they're having, that what do you do? We're not trained for what do you do when you go to your doctor and you have physical symptoms and they won't acknowledge it.
Exactly.
They won't help you. Mm-hmm. So it puts people in this terrible fear-filled place. And so I just started to, I don't know, for me, the more the process happened, the more I just started to know something that just seemed more than I was getting through any of the information sources that were out there. And I was a medical researcher, an independent medical researcher. I'd worked in the medical field for 17 years plus. And so I knew what was supposed to be biologically possible and what wasn't. And so, like I said, I started documenting the disease. And with my medical background, I just knew that this was, here's my process. It can only be one of three things. It can be aliens, God, or a higher intelligence, something we're not aware of, or some high-tech man-made stuff. So if you go with that, most people in Morgellons community think it's nanotech and it's from chemtrails and you're going to die, and I'm in the best health I've ever been in. So like I said, all I can do is share my experience and my perspective, and it seems like some of the people that plug into what I'm saying get better. So I'm not saying I'm a cure. I'm not saying my perspective's a cure. I'm just saying you have nothing to lose to take a look at what I'm saying. It's free. You have nothing to lose.
Exactly. Could you run down some of the symptoms for us so people get an understanding of what the Morgellons and the Ascension thing is here, real quick?
Sure. There's a host of symptoms, and through my work, I have different videos that show. The last video I just put out actually is a conglomerate of stuff I'd held back for a number, 2 years or so, on what you might actually see exit your body. Because one of the things that you'll notice right away, let's say if you go with Morgellons Ascension, one of the first phases you go through is a detox and a purge stage. You're going to see things exit your body. You're going to be so sick. So you're going to have runny noses. You're going to have ear issues. You're going to have eye blurriness. You're going to have eye discharge that you've never had before. You might wake up and your eyes will be glued together like pink eye, because your bodily fluids are changing in their texture and they're changing in their chemical makeup. So it's like your saliva is different. You might go through this respiratory phase where you cough up stuff. And some of it's not like anything you've ever seen before. It's like packing bubbles almost. It's really a bubbly, it's hard to describe, but people going through it will go, oh my gosh, she's right on the money, right? But the filaments and fibers is probably the biggest thing Morgellons people talk about, and that's red, blue, black, or translucent, what look like hairs or fibers that will come out of your skin. You'll see that a lot, and that's part of this crystalline DNA activation process. But, if you don't know that, and you see that, and then you type in, those symptoms, it can lead to a bad place real quick. But there's headaches, joint pain, nausea. All of your habits will go through a switch. So your eating habits are going to switch. Probably your relationships are going to switch up. Where you are comfortable living might switch up. Your job might switch up, because this not only physical process happens, but this process happens within you that you are just not able to do things anymore that are not being true to who you are. So you're not going to be able to stay in situations that aren't working for you. But your dietary changes will be a huge one. Things that you used to eat, you probably won't be able to eat anymore if it was really crappy stuff. Your body will just shut it down. So you might have a huge gastrointestinal period that could last, some people last a couple years. I think I threw up for 6 months. But then it starts to switch. Like I said, I used to have lupus. I was always on medications. I'd always been sickly. I haven't got a, quote, cold or flu for 2 years. I don't get sick at all anymore. My lifelong allergies have disappeared. I'm off all pharmaceuticals except for one. I'm down to a quarter of a pill, which is the first time in my life I've been off pharmaceuticals. My lupus has disappeared. So I want people to understand you can be healthy with this. It doesn't have to be, what some people think it has to be, is what I would say. Wow. But there's more symptoms than I just talked about. I mean, they could go on and on and on. There's a host of them.
So what do you think is the main symptom that everybody really associates with? Because I see a lot of things like threads in your skin and
that's the big one. Yeah, the filaments and fibers is the big one. And what those really are, so let's talk about those for just a second, because if you want to talk Morgellons, that's what most people see. That's the one symptom you're going to see is the filaments and the fibers coming out of the skin, because that's probably the scariest one. And you see a lot of that. But let's talk about that real quick. And what those are is those are plasma encoded filaments. And as these veils drop, okay, and you're going to start to notice that more and more people are going to be able to see visually things that they've never seen before real soon. Some of us already are. And there's this universe of plasma, different kinds of plasma that is all around us that we just can't see. Those plasma filaments, that's part of this universe. We're just now being able to see it. That's what those are. And they carry information. They're light interactive, and they store information within them. So another one of those that you'll see is what I call geometric fractals, which are the sparkles. Like I show my hands my skin is completely sparkly now, like a vampire from Twilight. When I go out in the sun, they're all light interactive, but that's another kind of plasma that carries information. But people just don't know that. I mean, your doctor's not going to tell you that, and so it's scary. But the plasma filaments are probably the scariest thing, because during that lesion and purge phase, it can be very uncomfortable. A lot of people will feel like they have bugs under their skin almost. They'll have itchy skin. And that's because your entire skin, your entire cellular structure is being reworked. Because as this higher photonic light enters our atmosphere, if we stayed within our old bodies, we would just not make it. Our old bodies couldn't handle this. It would be too much for them. So we're literally re-knitting this new skin. And I actually have videos where I show with filters what this process looks like under the skin. Like, it's really fascinating, actually. Yeah, so there's something happening biologically that goes way beyond just some icky plasma filaments, or filaments, if you want to call them. And those things, in no database known to anybody on the earth, have been identified yet. They still cannot be identified as to what they are. Yeah.
Now, see, I did a little bit of research back in the day on this stuff, and of course, just recently also, being that we've been talking about it so much. And I've seen where a few of these doctors now all of a sudden have come on board. Now they're still calling it Morgellons, obviously. But here's the thing: now they've taken some of these fibers out of people's skins, and they've done some background research on them, and they've tried to figure out what they are and blah blah blah. And so far, they've come up with no source, nothing. They cannot tell you they don't match carpeting. They don't match any kind of thread that we know of today. I mean, it's just crazy what they have, what they found in this or haven't found. I mean, how do you explain that?
They can prove they're organic. They can prove that they're organic in some sort of their context. They can prove that they have keratin and something else, I forget. But they cannot, there's just nothing that we have to compare it to. You're right. And so, it's pretty big right there. That's a pretty big statement.
Now,
because years later, I mean, we're almost a decade later, and it's still nothing.
Yeah. Now, and here's the thing too. Now, I've been reading a lot of posts where people say that it's attributed to the chemtrail issue.
A lot of people.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's my point on this: is Morgellons was before chemtrails. Okay. So I want people to understand that no, this is not. If anything, and it's my belief, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, Toni, but I think chemtrails are a way of stopping the Morgellons
exactly
from here. It's like a cover. I'm hoping
exactly
anyway.
right.
That's
This is what I tell people. It's exactly my perspective isn't like I said, I don't share mine. Is exactly that. You're right. At the beginning of my journey, however, I thought the other way. At the very beginning of my journey, I thought, oh my God, I got this from chemtrails. I'm going to die. I'm being turned into a transhumanistic nanobot. Like I did. I went with all that.
right.
I did. And some of the things I saw, it made me further go that way. Because what I didn't realize then and what I realize now is that we are all quantum. Our DNA is a symbiotic relationship with this plasma universe that we kind of had blocked from our view, you know. The way I would look at it is kind of like that movie They Live. We didn't get the glasses. They didn't hand those out. They created this environment to kind of keep us in a prison. And I tell people it's like they put a cast on our DNA. We should be able to access all 12 plus strands of our DNA. Each person is different, so each person, according to their historical DNA and biological DNA, might be all different strands. But most of us have at least 12. They put this cast on us that we can only really access 2. And it kind of trapped us into this place where we're only seeing 1% of what's really out there.
Wow,
because
that's very small.
We can't utilize the rest of our DNA. It's like it's like cut off. And so what's happening now is as more of these plasma filaments are coming in, why do you think they started laying chemtrails so heavily right then? You think it's just a fluke they started like right before we entered the photon belt? Right. No, because they knew that this was going to happen and they wanted to try and stop it. Because here's what I say to people. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say that this is man-made, this is being dumped on us by chemtrails, and that's all right. The only thing that's happening to me, the more this process goes on, and I would be considered late stages by any doctor who was doing Morgellons diagnoses or any actual Morgellons treatment, I would be considered late stages because of what I show. But nobody would want, if we're waking up, and what's happening, I'm becoming more empathic. I have a better connection to God, source, higher self, whatever you want to say. I can see more. I am changing my environment because I'm becoming a better person. I was always a good person, but I'm becoming a better person, you know.
Right.
They wouldn't be dumping stuff on us to wake us up, because what happens when we wake up? We unplug from their matrix, right? Well, then we go, we don't want to plug into your crap. And then they wouldn't do that. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
See, now, and that brings me up to something that I've said a long time ago when it came to chemtrails, and I argued this point with people many, many times, that if chemtrails were that harmless, why isn't the president and everybody else running around with gas masks on? And the people who are spreading this stuff, would they spread it on their own families? And you know, and their friends and loved ones and whatever, you know. So there's got to be a different reason for that, and I think we're on the right track here. I really do. I think they're using it as a cover. Now maybe, and I'm only speculating here because, like I said, I've been studying this stuff and I'm kind of going nuts over it. But I'm wondering if all of this space stuff that we've been doing, going back and forth, sending things in and out, bringing people back and forth, and blah blah blah, may not have opened up some kind of a germ warfare. Maybe not a warfare. Maybe that's a harsh word, but maybe they brought something back that they weren't supposed to, and it's leaked out in our atmosphere. You know, maybe blasting these rockets through the stratosphere and stuff opens something up, and in it comes. You know what I'm saying? I'm just guessing, but
say that you're right. I would say a lot of people would say that in the beginning of this with parasitic attachment, or you could say demonic possession, or that kind of a thing. A lot of people would say that's exactly what happened, is that these parasites got into our environment when they really weren't supposed to. That goes way back into the Anunnaki stories and all of that. I mean, if you really want to get into it.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know, like I tell people I wasn't there, but something's happened that has, you know, all I can say is when I first started bringing stuff forward, the Morgellons thing, there wasn't anybody showing any positive aspects to that, really. It was all doom and gloom. Right. And in the last 2 years, so many people are starting to see what I'm saying, that there's something else happening. And I say, look, we can debate all day long what is happening, because none of us have any scientific validation that is conclusive, right? So we can debate all day long. But what we can no longer debate is that there is something huge happening to humanity biologically. So where that leads, you know, we'll all find out together. That's what I tell people.
Well, there again, you know, it could have been sprayed on our food fields. It could have been in our water. It could have been anywhere. I mean, you know, we could have gotten it introduced anywhere.
Right.
I got a real serious question for you here. How many people do you think have been documented or claim have died from this stuff?
Okay. So this gets into a weird area for me. Yeah, it's really convoluted. Like I said, it's kind of like an onion. So the way I look at Morgellons is much different than most people. I believe that regardless of where it came from, and I have my own beliefs on that, I believe this is a divine process. I believe this is something good. I believe that this is talked about in ancient scriptures in every culture across the earth, as far back as we have. But let's just say, take that out of everything. But my belief is that there was a shift in this. And this interacts with your actual consciousness. So yes, my personal belief is when you look at this like a disease, that's what you get. And when you look at this differently, it changes and becomes something different because it actually interacts with your consciousness. So I think that for me, I saw a shift. In like before 2015, all you heard about were people dying. Like that's all you heard about. People committing suicide, people dying, people going nuts. It was terrible, horrible. It was a mess. People are so sick. And then right about 2015, 2016, I started seeing a shift in the forums. That I get these weird messages. The message I got, like these weird messages, was we couldn't get out what they did. It was too proliferated in your food chains, in your ecosystem, in your environment and atmosphere. We just couldn't get it out, the water. So the only thing that we could do was change the chemical makeup of it to, instead of kill you, help you with this process that's going to be happening. And so all I know is from that kind of time, September-ish, I want to say 2015, I started seeing people in the Morgellons communities not as sick. They were still suffering, don't get me wrong. They were still scared, but not as many people were in the hospital and dying. Not as many people were committing suicide. It seemed like there was kind of a leveling out almost, and some people were waking up. Some people were starting to actually get better, you know. I don't believe there's anybody that's actually, I mean, I've been in contact with some of the best institutes researching this. I think a lot of people think when they see my content, I'm all love and light. I'm not taking, that seriously. And like I said, I was a medical researcher. Of course I did. And I'm still researching that. I have lots of inside sources. I don't tell all people that stuff because it's just not what I want to bring forth right now. But I'm still staying in contact with some of those institutes because I'm showing things that a lot of other people, even with Morgellons and diagnosed, have not shown. So they're kind of interested in that. They're like, well, that's really interesting. But, like they said, I mean, it's just, I don't think that they've tracked it. I think anybody who probably did die, even if we got to it and said it was Morgellons, they're going to list it as something else. They're going to list it as respiratory failure. They're going to list it as heart, failure. Most of that time, it's never going to get listed in the right way anyways. Right.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true.
Yeah. And here's another thing that I tell people too. Somebody sent me, one of my inside sources sent me a memo because I'd worked within the medical community for a lot of years. And there was a memo that went out to a lot of GPs, a lot of labs, a lot of anybody dealing with people with Morgellons symptoms in late 2015, I want to say spring. And it said, do not treat, do not diagnose, do not examine patients with the following symptoms. And it was all Morgellons stuff. It was filaments, fibers, feeling like there was bugs, this and that. It said instead refer for psychiatric consultation.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. And labs tried to run samples through the back door were threatened with losing their accreditation. So you couldn't even get a lab to run a sample on that stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was saying earlier when they did do these testings, and I wanted to mention this. This was all independent research. This was not through any of the big name places. These guys did this on their own. They went home, pulled out their own microscopes, and did whatever, and did their own research. Yeah, and highly well-respected doctors, by the way. I don't think it was just anybody. I'm talking actual, down-to-earth people here, and they're trying to figure this thing out. But yeah, I can understand that kind of a cover-up. But why psychiatric treatment? I mean, they deem us crazy enough as it is with everything else. I mean, why would they do that?
Here's what I tell people. I mean, really, let's just say I'm right. Let's just say for the sake of argument, with my perspective and what I'm saying is that let's just say that most of these cultures, and I'm not saying that the Bible has it exactly right in Revelations or any of them do, because I wasn't there when this stuff went down. I don't know.
Right.
What I would say, though, is everybody's talking and prophesies the specific time when there would be this giant change, right? And so now we're seeing something happen to humans biologically that is not supposed to be possible. It's never happened before. So you have to just wonder if it's tied in somehow together. You know, you really have to stop and take a bigger look at things, is what I would say to anybody, you know, before you go one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know?
Well, let's go into the biblical part of it, just for grins and chuckles. I mean, you know, as far as the writings, and I'm not going to say religion or whatever, okay, because that's a whole different ballgame. But as far as ancient texts go and stuff like that, they talk about the changes in evolution as far as people goes and your DNA and different things like that. And if this is all part of that, you know, and like you said, it started like, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, however long ago it's actually started, people started seeing it. How far of a progression do you think it's going to be before, you know, it actually comes to the head, you know, to the big, you know.
Soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. I tell people all the time, I think this summer, I think 2018, but I said this last summer, but I mostly go by my own physical symptoms, and it seems like I am advanced in this process physically, at least what I can show compared to some people. Mm-hmm. Not all people, I'm sure some people far surpass me. But I said right away, disclosure, we're going to be disclosure. You know, really, those of us who are, I cannot stand in the sun right now. You cannot look at me and not see that there is something really weird happening. And you can try and lie to yourself and say it's lotion, sure. But that doesn't, you're still going to go, I don't think it's still weird. And then does that explain my pupils? Because I can change my pupils rapidly into multiple different shapes on command when I want to. Mm-hmm. So how would lotion do that? You know what I mean? And that's just me. I mean, lots of different people have different gifts and are discovering them day by day. But there seems, like you said, it started 20 plus years ago for a lot of people. We are seeing a rapid uptake in that, moment by moment. I mean, even just since August 1st. You know, I think by 8/8, you know, August 8th, I think after this summer, you're not going to be able to deny that there is some really weird things happening that even people who are so asleep, what I would call asleep, I think they're even going to have a really hard time denying that there's some really weird stuff going on here pretty soon. I don't think it's going to be another 20 years.
Right.
I do think that having been said, as we're talking about this process, it's light integration, you know, your body. And the way it was described to me is it's coming up from deep sea diving. If we all just came up right away, we would get the bends and dive. First of all, we couldn't just see everything that's unseen. Most of us would go insane because it's such a dramatic, people would be running down the street freaking out, you know, but also we can't change our physical structures that fast either. Some of us will be able to go faster than others. I think that has a multitude of different reasons, but some people it's going to take a lot longer to go through this process. And I think each person is going to do it organically and naturally the way that's best for them. So some people might take a lot longer than others. But I think some people, maybe like me, will go through it very quickly. And I think it's going to shock a lot of people. You know, I think a lot of people need to hold on to their hats because it's going to, you know, let me put it this way. When I came out in March of 2017, I showed my stuff. Nobody wanted any part of me. Nobody. Even the people in our genre that talked about what I was saying was happening, they still were like, we don't know about that shit. We've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. She could be crazy. We're not sure about her. But now,
psychiatric ward.
So many people have heard about it that when they see my stuff and it's happening to them, it's instant. Oh my gosh, you're the only one showing it like that, you know. And I think so much more recognition. It's going to be like a tsunami wave. I think more and more people, because more people are going to tell each other because it's huge. It's not something small. This is the hugest thing that's ever happened. So I think by the next year or so, we're going to see some major stuff coming out of this. My take.
And you know, and that's the thing. My mind is just, excuse me. My mind is just so overwhelmed with all kind of possibilities here. I mean, you know,
right.
So you know, my one question is, do you think? And I don't know how I'm going to describe this to you, but let's see what I can do. Do you think possibly this may be the fountain of youth?
You know, I think it ties in a weird way. I think that ties in. I think that this is something that a lot of people have. I mean, I think this is now, like, let's just not get stuck on whether everything in the Bible is accurate. Let's just take that out for a minute,
right,
okay?
right. Yeah.
Let's use it because it's one of the most widely recognized, you know, resources. But I think this is the process Jesus was talking about, if we want to get to it. This is what he ascended into. This is what he was trying to say. Look, we can all do this. He was trying to say to everybody, you can do this. I can do this. Everybody can do this. But I think what the messages I got before was that very, very, very few people had the capability to do it and remain in their life body. So that's why you only saw monks, very few monks obtain their, their rainbow bodies. I mean, you didn't see every monk who trained obtain a rainbow body. It was very few, very few people were able to do that. And most had to go through the death process. We're in this different time, and what I was told is that this is one of the first times that you're being allowed to do this without going through the death process. So, like I tell people, I don't really know. There's no validation, but every day the more that this occurs in me and the more it's visually seen and I have these weird changes, it just seems like I know more. I don't know how to explain that, but, like I tell people, I try to validate things as scientifically as I can, and we'll all figure it out together at some point, because it's just going to be what it's going to be. So,
right.
Find out. But I don't think it's going to be too much longer before you start to notice. A lot of people are experiencing skeletal changes right now. That's not something I talk about a lot because I try not to freak people out. I try to ease them in a little bit. I mean, they see the sparkles and they freak out. And it's like, well, what are you going to do when I give you some of the other details?
You want to hear something really weird?
Yeah, no, please. Yeah.
A really good friend of mine who is with us tonight, and I'm not sure if she's still on live stream or if she's in Spreaker, but she's been really helping us out a lot with this show because she's into this really hot and heavy. But she just had a dramatic skeletal change in her body as of yesterday. Yes.
Not surprising.
Her scoliosis has hit her so bad, she says she looks like a pretzel. And we're just talking about this as a common thing. And we're not talking about, at that time, it wasn't about Morgellons or about the Ascension or none of this.
Right.
We were just talking nonchalantly, and she happened to mention this. And I'm like, and now that you say that, it's like just blowing me out of the water. I'm like, here you go, Daryl, another one of your symptoms.
And a lot of people won't talk about it. I have had people send me pictures of it looks like their body morphing skeletally. Like you could see their actual spinal column shifting while the picture is being taken. There's some wild stuff. I tell people, I just started to notice a lot of the things that people notice with their skeletal changes, and I'm not surprised that if she hadn't noticed one before, that she would, like I said, 8-1 is huge. And by 8-8, we're in this huge energy right now that's really accelerating everybody's changes. So I'm really not surprised that it's hitting her even more now. But a lot of people will start noticing that their skull just feels a little different.
Right.
Like there might be this weird indentation at the back that wasn't always there. And that a lot of people also start to notice that for me, it started to feel like my heart was almost on the other side. Like when my heart would start beating out of my chest, it felt like it was almost over on this side, not that side. And I'm like, well, that's just weird. But a lot of people will just start noticing that their low back feels very different. Their rib cage seems differently aligned. So, yeah, many people talk about that, but it's not something I usually bring up because, like I said, people see my stuff and freak out anyway. So.
Right.
They already think I'm a reptilian, some of them. So, I try to lock it down a little bit till they're in more.
Okay, so I got to ask this, and we're going to go deeper a little bit into the rabbit hole here, just for grins and chuckles.
Why not?
Yeah. Do you have any kind of feeling or connection that this possibly may have to do with extraterrestrial intervention, with people with visitations and abductions and stuff like that? I mean, I'm only asking this because, it seems to me, and I'll explain this real quickly, that a lot of people with these symptoms and stuff, I noticed, have some type of an ET connection. Or ufology connection, I should say. It may not just be ET, but it may be a dream or some kind of, or they're a light worker or, something along that lines, but it all fits into that same category, into that puzzle.
Yeah. I do. And like I said, I can only go off what my experience can be. But what I have captured, and at first, I didn't really share that with anybody either because I thought people are going to think I've lost and I'm going to put it on a 5250 hold, like literally.
Right.
When I tried to tell some of my family this originally, I thought if my loved ones won't look at what I'm saying, like they wouldn't even look at what I was documenting. I thought at first if I could just prove that it was happening to them and the things that I'm about ready to share with you too, if I just prove it, they had to look. But I never counted on, they literally just wouldn't even look because they just couldn't go there yet, and some people just aren't ready. But so many people started to come forward and start, saying, hey, I've captured this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I captured that. But I thought I can't possibly go public with this stuff if the people that I love won't even look at it, like I said. So what I've noticed is as my visual changes happen, and most people will have the visual cellular changes happen at a much slower rate. For me, I had an NDE. I woke up from my last surgery, and I just woke up not being able to read print. Like, I couldn't look at my cell phone. I was seeing these weird multiple lines of stuff. But what I did notice that even though I couldn't read print, now a lot of people are going through that symptom right now. Their eyes are blurry, and they're looking at their phone, and they're like having such a hard time reading that all of a sudden. A lot of people are all of a sudden thinking they need glasses. That's not the case. It's just you're going through this cellular change. But when you start to go through that, you'll start to notice that you see more layers and details and things, because you're going to start seeing that plasmic field that's all around us and through us. And within that, how do I explain this? When I start taking pictures of my documenting my process within some of those geometric, I call them geometric fractals, under intense magnification, you see part of this as well. And they look like holographic cartoon pixels of what look like, I don't know how to say this, ETs, other beings, not human. I mean, I don't know how to say that. But my point is that they're embedded within everything. I mean, it's all around us all the time. It's just that's why, you know, when you hear in the light workers area, you'll say you are never alone because you can't be alone. And for the longest time, I didn't really understand what that meant. And I think that's part of what that means, is because this stuff is all around us every minute of every day. It's just for some reason, it's like that movie, They Live. They took our glasses away, so we just couldn't see it. So now those, you know, naturally and organically, as our cellular structure changes, I have a video out actually that's called New Visual Abilities Coming Online, and I actually give examples of what I see now, especially through, like, the sun is out or a light source, but there is an entire underlying geometric, you could say, language. It's a language, I say, that's made up of geometric, sacred geometries, mathematical equations, multiple languages, most of them ancient, you know, Aramaic, Sumerian, stuff that I didn't even know was a language, because it's mostly like symbols and images, numericals, and just images. But it's interwoven and kind of intertwined into this never-ending language that's underlined everything. So like I said, a lot of people are starting to see that out of the peripherals of their vision or in their sun gaze. They're starting to see these geometric kind of things, or when they close their eyes at night to sleep, a lot of people are like, it feels like there's a movie screen all of a sudden flashing in front of me. Like, my eyes are closed, but I'm seeing like these geometries, and I don't really know what that means. But that's all part of this. So, you know, you'll start to notice first it's out of the peripheral, and then as it happens more and more, you'll start to notice it just straight out. But yeah, it's like you're having an acid flashback a little bit, I would say. I mean, you don't need to do anything, because it's like, I don't know what's going on right now. But I didn't release most of that until I had heard multiple people come forward and say that they'd seen the same thing. And some people have captured those images in photographs. But it is hard to capture some of that stuff. I think it's almost like trying to capture between dimensions. You'll see when I do a lot of my stuff, always yelling at the camera, because it doesn't want to focus.
Yeah, it won't.
It's like it doesn't know how.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it won't, because of the dimension that it's trying to focus in on. Unless you can get it in the same dimension, yeah, it probably won't even show it, obviously. Okay, so cool. Do you think that...
Can I say one more thing on that real quick before I forget? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm a little scattered. I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered today. My energy is a little bit off. But I did want to say, one of the reasons I do agree with that, though, is because we were seeded with multiple strands of DNA that came from other races. Now, you could say some of that was interference. Right. Some of that we got completely jacked. Okay, let's just be honest.
Right.
But we have multiple strands from different races that seeded our DNA. And some would say that the Pleiadians are the ones that came forward to kind of give us the kick to get to this higher place right now, that they're the ones kind of really stepping in. They said it was 50,000 years ago, and they kind of put, you could say, time capsules or time release DNA codes within us to pop off to help us with this experience. Now, like I said, I don't know. I've never met a Pleiadian. I've never met a Arcturian. I don't know. I'm just saying it's an interesting theory, I guess you could say.
And I can kind of agree with that, except I don't believe it's the planetary, the Pleiades or whatever, but that's another thing altogether. But that's just me. Okay. Gosh, I don't know. There's so many. Excuse me. I got choked up a little bit there. But But yeah, there's so many different avenues that we could run with this. It's just phenomenal the way that you could think about it, and to put it all into one box, so to speak, it's just enormous. I mean, until we actually can figure out, the whole background on this and where, what it is and where it's going, and yeah, it's really truly hard to say. But
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, but I'm on that theory that it's not. Well, you kind of read the scriptures, and it says that only X amount of people are chosen. Okay, and I'm wondering if this may be one of those signs to show you these chosen people or whatever, because I don't think everybody across the world is going to get this. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
And I think it's only, and I'm not going to say a handful because it sounds kind of small, but in numbers it actually is. It's not a very big percentage.
I have a
So what were your thoughts on that? I mean,
Sure. And that's, like I said, this could go so many different ways because, like where did the Bible come from? You could go into, like you said, so many different rabbit holes with each of these topics. But what I would say is my personal theory is that though the Bible says only 144,000 will be chosen, now when I woke up, you and I were just talking about, to do our sound check, and you were saying you'd been seeing 111 everywhere.
right.
I always see 144. For me, when I woke up, I started seeing 144 everywhere. And here's how kind of I got kicked out of Sunday school at a very, very early age because I asked questions they did not want to answer.
And
so
both.
I was always out in the hall. And then finally they asked my parents not to bring me back one day. They're like, please don't bring her back, because I would ask them questions that I always believed in God and a higher intelligence. But I just didn't believe that God was a wrathful God. I didn't believe that he would come back at the end of the Bible and only pick 144,000 children. I'm like, what about the children? What about the ant? Like, none of that seemed completely right to me,
Right.
So yeah, they didn't want to answer those questions. My personal belief, though, is we all have what these light codes within us, these DNA activation light codes, and that's part of what triggers this process more and more and more. We all have the 144,000 DNA activation light codes. However, I believe only so many have chosen to activate them at this time. What I do believe, however, is that everybody can. And I do believe that there's what I say, like 4 different groups of people in this process. The first group is those like me. We knew something was up immediately. We're empathic, a lot of us. A lot of us have just had strange lives. We've been in UFOs. We've been into this weird other stuff. We've always just known there was something else out there. A lot of us are RH negative. Not all of us. A lot of us aren't. But, there's just that tie into sometimes. We knew something was happening immediately. Although we might not have known what the F it was, we knew there was something going on. We could feel it. We're starting to see it. A lot of us had gifts in some way. The second group of people, they might have kind of felt it, but they didn't really know until they were shown. Like people, like a lot of times will see my videos and they don't know that they have sparkles or they don't have the process happening until they see my stuff, and then they go look at themselves and go, oh my God, it's happening to me too. And then now it's real, right? Oh no, now
I got it.
Right, and then it's panic time. But they don't figure it out until they're shown, but then they can go out and show other people and activate other people.
Right.
The third group, they're really not going to figure it out until it's all over. They still have the intention of being better. They still want to go through the process, but they're just not going to do it consciously, is how I would say that. So it's kind of like I say, standing on a rug was the way it was explained to me. The first and second group of people will watch as this rug's being rewoven, and they might even help reweave this rug that they're standing on. The third group won't have any idea what's happening until everything's said and done. Then they'll look down at their feet and go, how did this rug get rewoven while I was standing on it?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize at the time the analogy was our physical bodies. I'm like, why are we talking about a rug? I didn't understand. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, they were talking about our physical bodies. What a great analogy, right?
Sure.
But there's this fourth group of people, like you said, who just are not going to go through the process. They don't want any part of it. It's their soul evolution not to do this at this time. I think it is a true ascension. There is a false ascension that kind of started a while ago, but I think we've kicked that. But the true ascension only happens every 26,000 years. And not every soul wants to do that at that time. So I do think there's a whole group of people that will be exiting into a timeline that works for them a little bit better. I don't think everybody's going to go through it. I don't. It's not an easy process.
No.
You have to do your own crap. That's what I would say. Along with this physical process, you got to get straight with yourself, and you got to handle your own baggage. And you have to really start to become a better person, And so a lot of people don't want to do that. It's not easy. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that's my take,
Right.
So.
Okay.
And then I tell people too, it's like right now there's these weird things happening. You can be standing in a room and have this experience happen. You have 3 people around you. All of you might see something completely different.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's reality is, right now it's like we're through the looking glass. It's a little weird right now.
Well, no, yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely, and I've known that to happen to many people. When you get 2 or 3 people in the same room, one person will see an entity, another one will just see a puff of smoke, another one won't see anything at all.
Exactly.
But they all 3 experience something. It's just different perspective, different dimension, whatever you want to call it. But that's, yeah, absolutely. And I'm totally down with that. No doubt.
You said something earlier too that I wanted to come back to, and it goes right into what you were just saying. And it's that you're right. That I think too, part of this, like we were talking about the Morgellons and things, and some people think it's chemtrails. And at the very beginning of my process, I had heard Bashar. It's a channeler. I'm not big into channeling. I'm not super big into that, so I don't channel necessarily. So it's not my thing. I'm not saying I love those people that do, some of them, but I'm just saying it's not something I do, or I think that is a gift for me. But I do like Bashar. I think he's the real deal. And he said something at the very beginning, because I was all worried about FEMA camps. That's where I was, I was chemtrails and FEMA camps, and oh my God, And he said, look, there are infinite, what you need to understand is there are infinite realities. And we design our reality based on our own beliefs and perceptions. And so here's the thing, if you believe in FEMA camps, you're going to get what you want. So to speak, to some degree, and I think that this physical process feeds into that. But yeah, I think people who really want to get stuck on this is nanotech and chemtrails, and you're being turned into a transhuman, you might be careful what you wish for, because that could be exactly what you get,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think my point too, though, is that no perspective is wrong necessarily. It's just that soul's evolution. It's every soul is going to experience what they need to evolve their soul in whatever way is best for them. I just didn't want to go through some crap, I guess.
Right.
I chose, if I could pick, I would like a happy ending. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so to explain to the people how you basically found this and what have you been doing now to get yourself through it, and from bad to good now. I mean, you look at you and it's like nobody would know. I mean, it's just obvious. You're kind of like shining, and you look great. Your attitude is just right up there. It's just totally awesome. So what changes did you have to go through, and what have you done to make these changes, so to speak?
Right. I would say everybody's process is going to be vastly different in that. But my process was, I had to get woken up really, really hard. I was always empathic. I was born empathic. I didn't know that was even the word for it, though. I was just told, I came from a generation, you're just too sensitive. They didn't, you just didn't talk about your feelings like that back then,
Right,
and so
right.
I think I realized that was the word for it until my late, mid-30s. But, I think for me, I had to be woken up very hard, and I say that's a big group of people right now. Some people in this awakening thing, and Morgellons seems to be part of that awakening for a lot of people. Some people are going to roll out of bed with a cup of coffee and take their time and kind of just, I needed somebody to throw some ice water on me, apparently. So I had to almost die, basically.
Wow.
And then, like I said, when I woke up from that last surgery, I was just a very, very different person than when I went under. I could see more layers and details and things. My boys said within, I think a week or two, we don't like you anymore. You speak like a priest now, with swear words, because I still swear. But yeah, my tone of speech. Yeah, right. I'll still be swearing.
Well, you're human. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I think it adds punctuation. I'm just saying. But, my complete tone changed. My inflection changed a little bit. The way I used words was vastly different than when I went under. I saw more importance in the words that I used. I realized that they were almost spells, so to speak, that you really, if you watch smart people, I worked for a very successful chiropractor and used to drag me to seminars. And here's the, they do positive affirmations for a reason, because they work.
Right.
They don't go to work every day and say, I'm stupid, I'm never going to do this, I can't make any. They don't do that. Successful people do, they speak out loud because they realize words have importance. It's like the word pharmakia, to poison. Start to key into your surroundings. But I started to take more notice of my surroundings. And once I started to really look at that, I say it's like you kind of have to deprogram yourself from the brainwashing that we incurred. It's kind of like you have to put the glasses on for they live. You have to start really wanting to see. Once I tell everybody, it came to a moment for me because I had terrible things happening to my body. I was purging, detoxing. I had the lesions. I've documented stuff that I've never shared with anybody except for, I think, my guy, because it was just too scary and I didn't even know what was happening. But I was in this terrible terror place, you know, FEMA camps and chemtrails, and I'm going to die from this. And these terrible things were happening to my body. But I'd seen somewhere, you should claim your sovereignty. And I just remember I had been in the bathroom one night, and I tell this story all the time, but for me, there was a pivotal moment where I grabbed my son's comb, and I'd seen the same filaments in his comb that came from his head. Mm. And try not to get emotional. I get emotional about everything. But I just remember that moment thinking, there is no flipping way in the universe I would have come into anywhere, because I had a very hard time getting my children here. I had to fight for that I would sign on for that if this was something bad. Right. I just wouldn't have done it. Right. There's no way. If I had any power at all, I will burn a universe down first. That's how I felt about it, you know, like no way. And so I thought, I'm just going to try doing that. I'm going to try claiming my sovereignty. So I did. And I just said some heartfelt words to God, higher self, whoever you want to say is out there. You know, everybody's got a different belief system on that. And I just said, look, let's just say, for the sake of argument, this was chemtrails. I'm being sprayed with some crap. I'm supposed to turn into this transhuman. Let's just say, I'm going to be like that chick from Resident Evil. Just because I got injected with the T virus, she didn't turn into some terrible, horrible mutant monster. She used it in love for other people to do good things. You know what I mean? Right. And I thought, I will go out with love, whatever that means for this process. If I go down in flames and I die horribly, I'm going to go out loving people and trying to at least help them in the end. That's what I'm going to do. And within 2 days of that night, something changed profoundly that night. It's not like I remember anything, but the very next day or the day after, I mean, first of all, my physical symptoms that were really problematic stopped immediately almost. Like, almost immediately. I still kept with the coughing stuff up for a little while, but the parasitic stuff that I was seeing, like, really, I can't describe what was coming out of my body any more than saying it looked parasitic. Sci-fi parasitic. I don't know a different word for that. And my dog, too, to be perfectly honest. But once I did that, 2 days later, I found my first sparkle, you know, and then I started to notice that the process had changed in this profound way. And I was led to Escocaris, or God's Glitter. That's ESCARCHAS, or God's Glitter is what that means. And they've been, you know, documenting this process that's happened to either people who devoutly worship, or who have died who were devout worshipers, or items that were devoutly worshipped on. And the exact same stuff that they have in these, you know, I don't know, you could call them boxes that they have in front of monasteries and nunneries of this stuff that they collected from these people or these items, was the exact stuff that I had taken off my body, that I had not put up forth a video yet. I hadn't shared any of that yet, but it was the exact same. And I thought, oh my God, thank you. I just needed some, you know what I mean? But for me, it was taking my power back. Yeah, it was choosing for this to be something different. And then for me, it changed. And then I just started to get healthier and healthier. And I got led to things that would help my body, like Ormus, spirulina, zeolites. I started to change my eating habits so I wasn't messing my physical body up as more. You know, I started to change my habits so I wasn't, you know, taking pharmaceuticals like I was. And then, yeah, deprogramming my mind. And each time I did something like that, it just helped and helped and helped until I just didn't have to do most of that stuff anymore. Yeah.
So how many years or how long or months or whatever has this process been going through you as far as that goes?
Sure. When I noticed that I was getting extremely sick, it was late 2015. I went in for my last surgery in February of 2016. I think my first one was December of 2015. And then, so for me, I think I came forward March 2017, but it's only been, you know, less than 3 years, really.
That's really not a very long time. I mean, it is to some people. No. It sounds like 3 years. My gosh, she's lived with this, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's an everyday thing, though. I mean, that's the thing, you know. And
a lot of Morgellons, like hardcore sufferers, have suffered for 11 years, you know, 10 years. So,
right,
you know.
Right, and some are still suffering. Yeah.
Phase, really, I was so lucky. I feel like I got a really good grasp on it and turned it around within about 6 months to a year, honestly. But I would also say that my process has maybe been a lot more intense than some because it happened so quickly as well. So once I started to really key in that this was maybe something else, and you could say light body or whatever else, that part of it has happened very intensely maybe. And like I said, I think everybody will go through it at a different time and different rate, and they, you know, will have some symptoms that are more, hardcore than others, and they might have none of the other symptoms that somebody else is having. It's going to be very individual, dependent on DNA for each person.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is this hummus you're talking about? And I noticed that you actually sell some and you make some, and can you explain that to the folks here so they know what it is?
Sure. Yeah, Ormus is also called ORMUS, or it's called monoatomic gold. I tell people it's really in everything that has living matter. So it's in our food, it's in our water, it's in our atmosphere, it's in us. Mm-hmm. But my take on it, my perception is, now some people can give you the most amazing definitions that go way amazing, and I don't have the wherewithal today to do that because it's so high tech, but my perception is that when they started polluting our environment, I think it was something like the chemtrails. They did it on purpose, because when we are functioning at a complete high ability, when we have the proper amounts of Ormus within us, within the atmosphere, our atmosphere would be fine. We wouldn't have any issues with our atmosphere. In fact, it's funny, after I found Ormus for about 6 months, I saw an interview with Bashar, that channeler, and he said, if you really want to fix your atmosphere, spray Ormus from the planes. Mm-hmm. Or I think he said monoatomic gold. It'd be fixed within.
Which is what
the oh my gosh, but it was.
Which is what the Anunnaki did, right? Or supposedly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
cool.
Some people will say don't take Ormus because you won't be able to activate your 12th strand of DNA. You'll get stuck at the 10th. I don't know. I know Cleopatra took it too. She called it mother's milk, and she was very fussy about it. She bathed in it and she drank it religiously. But some people would say that the Anunnaki were there during Egyptian time, and that's where she learned about it. I don't know. But I do know that's been written about in every. The Bible calls it, I think, bread of manna. Some people call it philosopher's stone. Some people call it fountain of youth.
And that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely good point. When they were walking across the desert with Moses and that, manna was the big thing. And I always said that manna was monoatomic gold. That's what I always said. But I never talked about it much because people thought I was nuts. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I love that. Please, yeah. Interject all the time. But yeah, and then a lot of people... said that that's how Moses parted the Red Sea, actually was using the manna, that's part of how he got some of his abilities, that when he saw the burning bush, that he was on manna. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say that the Holy of Holies would have this process where they would have to take a giant amount of it, and if they, didn't succumb to it, then they reach this heightened state. And some people say that it has transdimensional properties. Mm-hmm. So I want to say when I heard about it, I had just had my last surgery. My kidneys were shutting down. I was peeing blood. It was just all my systemic infections. The Morgellons thing was at that icky phase. I didn't know anything. And I remember my phone, this was one of the very first times it did it, opened up on its own to this web page of David Hutchinson's, who is a big researcher of Ormus or monoatomic gold.
Right.
And it just started playing. And I remember thinking at the time, what is this? I don't even know how I didn't want any part of it. I was
Here's your sign.
Right. But what I thought was fascinating was that when it was exposed to sunlight, it disappeared. And that's what caught my attention. I thought, what? Because the researcher and the medical person in me was like, how is that even possible? So it fascinated me. So I ended up diving in a little bit more. But I researched it heavily for like 6 months. And then I thought, well, I want to try it, because I couldn't find a single negative thing about the health benefits. I could not find a single person who had taken it that said it didn't do something incredible for them. Mm-hmm. The worst that you could find is it didn't do anything. But almost 99% of people said, not only did my health get better, I had a better awareness, my spiritual connection was out of this world, I had psychic abilities open up. Nobody seemed to have anything negative to say, except for one girl who had taken some that the pH was too high and she got very sick. So that can happen if the pH is not balanced. I will warn people.
Okay.
But I went to buy it, and it was so outrageously expensive, I went, I can't afford that. But one of the best things about Ormus is the way that there are several methods you can use. I use a very simple method. You can find videos online on YouTube that show you how. It's dead sea salts, distilled water, and washing soda, which is just baking soda without the aluminum. So you can either get it that way. No kidding, that's it.
Wow.
That's it. And you can just burn the baking soda out in an oven for, 400 degrees for 4 hours. So, it's not even like you have to do anything super special, but it's the process to get the precipitate that takes, 2 weeks-ish. So it's a time-consuming thing. And then you also have to, I think this is the biggest part of it that goes into that, why it has interdimensional properties, because you put your intentions into it. And that sounds really crazy. But if we look at Dr. Emoto's work, who worked with water and then saying things to water or playing music and then photographing what the water turned into a crystalline form. And when he said bad things, the water turned into this horrific, ugly thing in crystalline form. When he said good things, it turned into this beautiful snowflake or something otherwise, you know, and I think for me that was a big part of my awakening too, because it showed your thoughts do have an actual physical reaction with your environment.
Absolutely. I agree with that, 100%. Right? Absolutely.
And Ormus crystallizes, yeah. So anyways, that's basically feed your intentions into it, and there you go. It's really easy, you know.
Oh, that is totally amazing.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's just totally amazing. Go ahead.
Right. I was just going to say, I think, you know, and I do sell it, but yeah, anybody can make it. So I always encourage people, if you can make it, I think you should make it yourself, because I think it's more powerful for you if you do make it yourself. But I can certainly understand it took me a year to get the formulation right. You know, it's not an easy process. Even if there's only a few ingredients, you really have to find the right pH, and it only sets up at a right pH. And you have to try and get your yields right. And so it's not super easy, but I sell mine for like $44 for a small bottle, $60 for a large bottle. But either bottle will last you months, and the large bottle lasted me a year, because you just need like the amount that you would use for salt. You need the tiniest amount, you know.
Wow,
and I always tell people, don't become dependent on it. Nobody needs to become dependent on it. But if you're at that beginning phase, especially if you're Morgellons or you have any kind of, you know, disease, it really helps balance that physical body for you, so that you can focus on other areas of your life and not have that be the entirety of your focus.
Just
and then within a few months.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hated to interrupt you. Just a quick question though, before I forget. When you take this now, do you take it by body weight, or I mean, how do you specifically take the amount?
Yeah, it really, I give people instructions on when I send mine out. I also include these teeny tiny little spoons, which are a tiny bit too small, but I just tell people you don't really mine. I can't say somebody else's formula because I'm not sure what their formula or concentrations are. With mine, like I said, you really don't need more than you would need for how much you would use for salt in your food at night. I put mine in my coffee in the morning, and it's basically salt is what it turns out to be. It's a white powder. And then, yeah, taking a quarter of a teaspoon would be a lot, is what I would say.
Really?
So really just the tiniest amounts, yeah. And then one testimonial that I have that I love sharing, because I just got that, was my very first customer wrote back to me a couple months after he'd been taking it, and he said, I just wanted to give you, because he knows I like scientific physical validation. I'm that girl. He said, I had taken my liver tests right before I started taking Ormus, and I had a 98 alt liver enzyme test, which is off the charts. He was looking at having to have a liver biopsy. 2 to 3 months after taking Ormus, he was at a normal range, which was 20 to 30s.
No kidding.
True.
Wow.
So I can't say for sure it was my Ormus. I'm not claiming it cures cancer.
But he's claiming that.
I'm not saying any of that.
Yeah,
but I am saying it helped me. I had lifelong allergies with, grass. Like I literally, if I mowed the lawn, I'd take 2 inhalers, steroids, 3 allergy pills. I was blowing my nose every 5 minutes. This year, I didn't have to take a thing. I blew my nose once. It was the most, even my parents are like, okay, maybe we'll try it now. That's what they like.
Maybe I'll try it now. I mean,
but
seriously.
So I just started really selling it, and so people are really interested. I think a lot of people are starting to talk about it. But I always say, you don't want to become dependent on anything, because that's giving your power away. Right. But if you need to just balance your body in the beginning, I think it does a huge, immense help just to go through that purging and detoxing phase and really get. I think there are things out there that we didn't know were out there, whether through text, in our food, I don't know. But I just know that when I started taking the Ormus, the things that purged, it was just like I started feeling so much better, and I think it helped immensely with that process. And just rebalancing my system, because I think what it does too is it helps us be able to take the nutritional stuff from our food, from the water, from the sun. But when we don't have the proper amounts within our actual bodies, we can't take in the things that we need the way that we should. That's the way I would put it. Wow,
that's unbelievable. That, I mean, it's believable. I'm just saying, it's yeah, wow.
I would say too, there's some amazing videos online. I have not done one yet, but Woodward TV, I love Woodward TV. Love you, Woodward. He has a great video out on what Ormus is, what it does. There's a couple other ones that are out there. There's many, so you can find lots of information about it.
Well, when we post this, or when we put this back up on the, in the Closer Encounters page, if you could throw us a link or something to that, or to him, somehow, and people can actually go in and look at that and whatever. And by the way, let people know what is your YouTube channel and stuff. People want to see what you got going on there and stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, here's my shameless plug. For my YouTube channel, if you really want to see strange things that, like I said, I share my experience, but what has been such a beautiful thing, and really just the last several months, I'd say the last few weeks especially, is more and more people, when I would show my sparkles, I try to break the process down in as many possible scientific ways that I can. I mean, for me, I'm just a real person. I'm not,
Right.
not in a lab, so you're not going to get all of that. But I try to show you things that nobody else is showing you about this basic biological process that's happening that nobody else really wants to talk about or show. So you will see things that, like I said, you'll see not only the sparkles in the skin, you'll see how I change my pupils. You'll actually see what it looks like under the skin and how it actually looks like a quantum computer within our body working. Like, it's the craziest things. But I try to show you, like, the crystals that will come out of your eyes. Like, I break it all down. Like, I give it all to you. So it's a very, so if you're ready to go down the rabbit hole, but what I would say to you is once you see it, you can't unsee. So make sure you're ready. That's what I would say. But it's T Taylor, just T space Taylor. Or you can look up crystalline DNA, and that will get you usually to me as well. And then I have links to, if you want to buy Ormus and you don't want to go through the process of making it, I have links in every single one of my description boxes that will get you there.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do too, folks, to let you know, I am going to put it on my webpage at www.closerencounters.space, and we are going to link up her Ormus and stuff, and we'll put that on there too. So, yeah, definitely, that'd be really cool. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I did want to say too, but yeah, the last few weeks though, I can't keep up with it. Like I said, everybody thought I was crazy in the beginning, but as more and more people are seeing this within themselves, I have so many people sending me videos, pictures, testimonials. This is happening to me. This is happening to my mother. This is happening to so and so. So I think the collective itself is going to start really picking up on this very, very quickly.
Absolutely. You know what we got to do, and I don't mean to sound downgrading or anything like that, but Toni, you are such an inspiration, especially to folks like myself and a few others I know that are on the live feed right now. They are just going crazy over you here. I got so many comments and stuff. But we need to get you an actual website made up and show what you got going on and what, because I'm telling you, I think, well, I don't think, I know you really are onto something hot and heavy here, and this is just one of them avenues that people need to take, and I'm telling them, your message is just big. It's just too big not to have it out there, Seriously.
I tell people, well, thank you. That makes me cry, actually. I'd like to say, just a response to that. When I came forward, I really came forward for two reasons. I never thought I'd been very agoraphobic almost for 15 years because I had a sick child and I got stuck at home. And when I came forward with this, I mean, really, I never thought I would do anything like that. But really, there's two reasons. One, because my loved ones wouldn't listen to me. Right. And I didn't know what was happening at that time. I didn't know if it was good or bad, or, I didn't know what was happening. So I thought, if this takes me out, I want to break it apart as much as I possibly can and leave them some sort of trail that they can follow. I figured one of my sons are brilliant, would pick up on it if they needed to, whatever. The other reason I came forward was because I'd heard about a 22-year-old kid, and it still makes me cry every time I talk about this. He committed suicide, and a lot of people do it. In the beginning they did, because he had these symptoms, and he literally thought he was going to infect his mother. He actually had slept on the couch downstairs for months, and then the day he committed suicide, he actually took the couch out back and burned it, because he was so terrified that what was happening to him would infect his mother. And I just thought, even if I go forward, I just don't want one more person to feel like how I felt. I didn't want one more person to feel, I wanted everybody else to at least know somebody else was going through it, that you don't have to be in fear, you don't have to die, that you can live with it, and started to have those changes. And so I just wanted other people to have that perspective. And so that was really huge for me. And I think as all of us go through this process, we start to look back at our lives and realize everything happened. There's no chance. It's all this amazing orchestra of moments that led to these other moments. And when my son became a regressive autistic, I went through this process where I was one of the only ones that, blamed vaccines. I called out what happened to them, and I started doing these biomedical treatments and meeting with these doctors that, I was told I was going to kill my child. They didn't want me helping any other kids. It was this big thing. Everybody told me I was crazy. But here's the thing. My child got fixed.
Right.
He got to graduate from a senior year in high school, and they told me by 14 I'd have to place him in an institution. He'd never speak again. He'd be in diapers for the rest of his life, throw away the key. And I said, that doesn't work for me. So I went out there and I fixed it. I went out there and found it fixed, whatever it had to be. But my point was, I did the same thing with this. I broke it apart and was like, I'm not going to listen to that bullshit narrative, excuse my language.
Right.
And so I think that had I not maybe done that in that way, I wouldn't have been handed this piece. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I think everything, happens for a reason. And so I just didn't want people to go down with a bad perspective. And I thought, at least when I came forward, I said, look, like I said, I can't say where this is going to lead, but it should be an open discussion at this point. Like, so many people are going through this that we should be able to openly discuss it at least. And maybe we won't all agree. But why isn't it on the table? That's what I couldn't understand. And
Exactly.
I wanted to be able to facilitate that.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on this show, because this is, like I said, this is one of those avenues that people have to take. They got to look into it. They got to, keep an open mind. And, I've talked about Morgellons and stuff years ago, and I've had people on my other show come on and talk about their experiences and stuff like that. And like we stated earlier, we didn't know the difference, and until people like you come out, especially you. I mean, when I've seen your video, and I got to admit now, I've seen your video probably back when you first aired them. I mean, way back, when you first started. And, I was skeptical. Don't get me wrong. I'm like everybody else. Of course, I wasn't dealing with it, but I knew people that had or are, And so on down the road, I keep checking back, seeing what the progression is and blah, blah. And you just kept going. And you never stopped. And it kept going and kept going. And I'm like, there's got to be something to this, So here I am back researching again, doing my thing. And, when the friend request went out and stuff like that, it was all about this and you and, the whole 9 yards. And I'm so glad we connected. I really am. Because I think this is something that people really need to understand. And this is an opportunity for everybody, to wrap their mind around, so to speak, and say, hey, yeah, absolutely, But
and like I say, you have nothing to lose to look at another perspective. It's free. It costs you nothing. Yep. And if it might save you pain and anguish, and maybe just maybe turns your thought perspective, maybe you really will. I mean, all I can say is the people I've talked to who have said to me, when I found you, I was at such a bad place. I was ready to self-harm. I didn't know anybody else that was talking openly about this, or I definitely wasn't showing any of it like you were, I mean, some of the things that I show, nobody, even in the Morgellons community, nobody showed. You know what I mean? Like, that's, even within that, they're like, that's some pretty outlandish stuff, But I always try to keep it light, and I try to keep it positive, but they were like, just seeing a different perspective, because there isn't really a whole lot out there, tying that together changed everything for me. And then they were able to go off and do their own thing and take their perspectives and their beliefs, but it just opened a door for them in a different way.
Sure.
And so I'm just saying, if I can make you think for 5 seconds, and if that helps you, that's great.
It did me. It made me think. I mean, like I said, after watching the videos and stuff, and the one that really got me was the Ascension one, and I can't think of the whole name of it right off the top.
It's okay. It was the 12 stages one. There's
right. Yep. 12 stages. Yeah. And I was really impressed. I was so impressed. I'm like, wow, this is something. And of course, there again, you mentioned the Amish and all that other stuff. Which I did a background on that and seen it had monotonical gold in it and things like that. And I'm like, the Anunnaki talked about this, and other people talked about this, and it's like it all kind of came together, and I'm like, maybe there's something to this. I mean, it's just, and if it will help people, like you said, I want to get people to know, in the know, and Morgellons is not Morgellons. That's what I keep trying, but it's hard to explain that to people now,
It is, right. And the mainstream narrative feeds the fear, because why do they feed the fear on it? Mm-hmm. Because that's what they get. They're a parasite to some degree. I mean, if we really get into it and go down the rabbit hole, we all know, you know, those of us watching your show, we're all acutely aware there is a certain faction that's been in charge, kind of, and they, you know, we didn't understand they fed on sound frequency or frequency to some degree, but they feed on fear, they feed on anger, they feed on stress. If you look at the model of our system, it's everywhere. Why is it everywhere? Why is death? We live in a death and kill society. We live in a lack society.
Right.
Why? Because they feed off it. So, of course, their last-ditch effort, let's just say there was, this amazing process happened that was going to possibly liberate humanity finally. We're going to wake up, we're going to be able to see what was around us, activate stuff that had been long not able to be activated. What would be their last-ditch attempt at those of us who were waking up? It's kind of like this episode from Star Trek, The Next Generation, way back in the day. I included a clip of this from in one of my videos called Transfigurations. Check that out if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's 80s, so it's a little cheesy, but same thing. Their people were going through this giant biological evolution, but their society, what did? They told them it was a sickness, they told them it was a disease, they said you're going to die, you're going to kill everybody, so they would kill each person that started the process. And then finally a group of them escaped, and what happened when they finally allowed their bodies to go through the process? They turned into light beings.
Wow.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I know somebody brought that to my attention when I started making my videos. I went, oh my, I gotta make a video on that. You know what I mean? But I think it's very interesting that that's the narrative we have for Morgellons too. Some of the people going through it what's their last ditch attempt at stopping you if you've already started the process?
Exactly.
To so that it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So that you build your own prison. You tell yourself it's going to kill you. It's going to kill you. I mean, it's kind of what it works out to.
Exactly. I had a question from Darielle, and she wanted to know, as far as Morgellons go, can you ask her to give us advice on how to view her channel, and where should Morgellons sufferers start?
It's a big question. You can view most of my stuff is on YouTube. In fact, all my stuff is on YouTube. So yeah, YouTube under T Taylor. Hopefully you'll put a link into my Facebook, because you can get to YouTube through my Facebook too. I don't put a whole lot on Facebook. I don't love Facebook, honestly.
Understandably.
I only use it, you know what I mean. Everybody knows about that.
Right.
So, but yeah, the first place I would start, honestly, here's my question would be, is if you are in the Morgellons thing, if you're really sick, if you're having a lot of those lesions and you're just really, really sick, you're really fatigued, you're nauseous, you're going through a lot of just really bad issues, I honestly would start with Ormus, because it's probably the fastest thing that's going to balance your physical body the easiest, honestly. If that's outside of your comfort zone, then where I would start would be zeolites, spirulina, and I would really start examining what you're putting in your body, and if at all possible, get off every flippin' pharmaceutical that you can. Like I said, if we look at pharmakia, the root of that word, they didn't make that on accident. They used it as spells. It's to poison. Why do you think there's so many side effects for each medication?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really, when people get the best results when they start writing to me and they've been in that really heavy Morgellons place, they said, you're right. As soon as I got most of those pharmaceuticals, my whole world changed. Like, unbelievable. I didn't think I could do it. I've been on those for years. I get it. Me too. But once you do, you're like, wow. And then, like I said, then just start really examining what you're putting in your body. And that goes from everything to what you're eating to the deodorant you use. One of the first things that I did, and I wasn't a co-op-y chick. I wasn't into natural anything. My parents used to laugh at me and say if I didn't come out of a box, it wasn't a preservative, I wouldn't eat it. You know what I mean? I wasn't a healthy gal.
Right.
And most of us indigos, or you could say anybody watching your show is a first, second, or third waiver. We're more aware usually.
Right.
We all had usually substance abuse issues at one time in our life. That's just who we were,
Yep.
But once you start going through that, if you can start really just being careful and managing all that stuff, get your habits under control, stop accessing things, start balancing your life, taking more time for you. I know it sounds crazy. Everybody says it, meditation, but really, if you start working on yourself, it actually, here's my tip for Morgellons people too. We were taught that our physical body is it. That's it. That's what makes our physical illness. Completely wrong. Opposite. Our energetic bodies is mostly what makes our physical illness. Not 100%, but a lot. It's like 90, 80.
Right.
So if you can start really dealing with your own crap, getting people out of your life that are toxic, those kinds of things. That's why you see when a lot of people start this process, they have to drop relationships. Nobody wants to be around them anymore. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, everybody started hating me. We start triggering people. Yeah, exactly. Because you just can't have that stuff in your life, or it's going to activate your physical symptoms. I noticed the only time I got really sick again was when I did something stupid. when I brought something back into my physical body that shouldn't have been there, really,
Right.
you know. But I got rid of aluminum in deodorants. I got rid of, you know, fluoride in toothpaste, big one. Get rid of the fluoride, people. A lot of people get their, you know, steel things in their mouth cavities switched out for porcelain. You know, anything that you can just do to balance your physical body and your energetic body is going to change those physical symptoms in a profound way. That's just the way I see it in the testimonials I'm getting back.
Wow, that's awesome. I had a comment here by Tim Collard, who's a real good friend of ours. Used to be, he's like a lifetime member of our show, no doubt about it. He mentions the fact that monatomical gold opens up the third eye,
Yes.
which is quite a deal all by itself. Can you kind of go in depth a little bit on that, or you know, kind of go over that
Sure.
with a pineal gland?
I can't go too in depth because, like I said, it's not my specific area of expertise, but he's absolutely right. You know, and that would go into what I would say those interdimensional properties that it, you know, it kind of has. But it does. It opens up that. Okay, so here's what I would say too. Part of the fluoride, the big fluoride controversy, is that when we have a lot of fluoride in our systems and we have GMOs in our food and we don't have enough ormus in our environments, all those things, it's like an onion. It all stocks in for reasons. It's like layer on layer. It stops the pineal gland from being able to activate in the proper way. So when you have the pineal gland blocked, your third eye is blocked, your DNA is blocked, you know, your health is going to be screwed. All those things can't work in the way that a human being was designed to work in for the best and highest good. So once you start getting rid of the fluoride, that helps the pineal gland open. You know, taking, like I said, things like zeolites or your ormus. Ormus is a huge booster to that. You'll probably get a bigger third eye activation with taking ormus in than almost anything. But I'd say, yeah, if you can supplement that with getting the fluoride out, balancing your other stuff, you know, you will start to notice psychic abilities start to open up as well. Now, I have a problem because a lot of people will ask me, especially lately, you know, I think they think that maybe my sparkles came from my ormus, and I'm in a position where, you know, was it the chicken or the egg a little bit? I started taking ormus right when this physical process switched from a bad thing to a good thing, so I don't really know how much is ormus and how much would have happened on its own with just this physical, you know, process. So, you know, it's a tough one for me to say for sure either way, but I know it helped immensely.
A couple other questions. One of them, do you have animals? What kind do you have? And you know, I'm just curious too. On the same note, do animals get this?
Yeah. My dog is going through the same thing. He's sparkly too. In fact, he's actually almost hairless and sparkly. Because when I started losing, my hair went through this. A lot of women will notice this probably more than men, but my hair is not my hair like it was. Every person who's like in the Morgellons is like nodding their head right now probably. But my hair has. Because every part of your body goes through the cellular transformation. But I lost like 3/4 of my hair, and now it's this weird silver color, which is not old age. It's something weird, different. You know, I don't know how to describe that. And it's got the texture is different. It's like glass. Its chemical makeup is different. But my dog went through the same thing. Is my point. So when I started losing hair, he was like, and I took him to the vet, and the vet said, there is nothing that crosses the zoological barrier. Your dog can't have the same thing that you have. And I'm like, we have the exact same symptoms. What are you talking about? You know, $352 later. Yeah, they didn't want to talk about it. But animals are going through this. That's why you're starting to notice, how do I put this? As the Earth changes to a crystalline grid, and that's part of our DNA is crystalline, and so that's part of this, we have to also change to a crystalline grid. We're like fleas kind of on the Earth's back. If we want to stay with the Earth, we kind of got to do what the Earth is doing.
Right.
So that's why there's so many Earth changes right now as well. That's why we have the volcanic stuff going on. That's why the weather is so much more extreme than we've ever seen. You know, the hot temperatures, and everybody knows what we're talking about. The mainstream media doesn't really want it flashed in your face because they keep you distracted. Don't look here. Don't look at yourself. Don't look up. Right. Don't look at what's happening, because then you'll wake up. But this Earth is changing too, and so the animals are too, and that's why you're seeing lots of animal species. You know, they're leaving. You know, we're seeing animal species die out at this unprecedented rate that we've never seen before. We see birds acting weird. You know, there's all these you know, electromagnetic changes within the core that are happening. So yeah, our animals. I was told we would be allowed to take our animals with us. That wasn't always the case, but we're not going anywhere, so don't think I'm saying we're going anywhere.
Right.
You know, this different perception of what's going to be. But yeah, the animals definitely can happen too. And I always have animals. My parents say I have a thing. I always have. I mean, I always, when I was from the time I was born, I just had animals trailing me home. I mean, I always have.
I'm
I
the
open my
same
front
way.
doors,
I'm
great
like an
animals find
animal
me.
magnet. Yeah, no doubt. I know
I know.
exactly what you're saying. And I think that all goes the other way too. I think that was something that was gifted to
It
me, but
is.
that's another story. Uh, but I
And
mentioned
I
that,
think
you know,
the vibration. They sense the vibration of people,
absolutely.
I think. They
Yeah.
know who they're safe with, they know who they're not.
Well, being an empath really helps. I mean, seriously,
Exactly.
it does. It does. It really helps a lot. Um, there was something I was going. Oh, yeah, you mentioned about being able to take your animals with you. It's ironic that you say that because the Egyptians actually believed that, and they would mummify some of their animals and whatever to go along with them. And that's not just them. I mean, there's other cultures that do the same thing. So
Right.
there may be, quote unquote, something to that. So who knows? You know, uh,
I
but
think honestly, it all comes down to quantum entanglement. I mean, if you want to get really
right.
down the rabbit hole, that's my personal belief.
Yep.
I think that
Yep.
if you're quantumly entangled enough with something,
Hmm.
the only thing that, I mean, I came out of the womb saying to everybody, and it's so funny that it's come full circle now, and that's what everybody's saying, because I'm like, who knew? Like, the one thing I was, everybody told me I was stupid for saying is like, but I said, the only thing you take with you is love.
Right.
That's it. I mean, I came out of the womb saying that. I used to say to people all the time when they bugged me, because they were always working, you're never going to put on your tombstone, I wish I would work more hours. That's the base emotion. And so when we are so entangled within something, I think Bashar said it really well too. And he said, because somebody asked him in the animal question, they said, do animals have reincarnation cycles like we do? And
Hmm.
he said, what's really interesting, Leo, stop it. He said, what's really interesting is generally no, they don't. But if an animal bonds with a human being, then they can. It's up to them. Then they can come back if they would like to. Something he said, we didn't expect that to happen from an outside perspective. You say galactic or I don't know what they are, exact whatever. He
Hmm.
said, but it hadn't been like that. But when humans bonded with animals, it changed things in an unexpected way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, look at them when they bring them into hospitals and stuff, like for the mentally ill or whatever, and it just changes their whole demeanor, like right now, instantaneously. You know, and not only that, but look at all these videos that you see out now where people are interacting with animals. There was one recently where a girl's in a kayak and this otter literally climbs into her kayak and makes himself at home, like
I love
nothing's
that.
happening. It's crazy, but yeah, I mean, and it's this kind of thing. People walking around lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! I mean, seriously, it's just. And I see a change. I really do. I see this big change coming around,
Exactly.
and
I was just going to say
so
that.
I
There's a change
know
happening.
absolutely, and I definitely know that there is something, just like you said, that's going on. But the thing is I really need to know what the meaning of it is. Where is it going? And I don't want to get left behind. Yeah, I mean, I'm still in it, but
Right.
yeah.
And then when that's perfect, you were saying about the change. I definitely want to touch on that too, because I started telling people a long time ago, you're going to start seeing a couple things. And the Bible even talks about one of these aspects is the lion. Well, I think it's changed now with Mandela effect, but it was the lion will lay down with the lamb in a different way
Hmm.
in Revelations.
Right.
And now I think they say the wolf will lay down with the lamb. So whatever is going to lay down with the lamb. But my point in that is, I said early on, you're going to start to notice that predatory animals will stop being quite so predatory towards other animals. You're going to start seeing animals, they'll be one of the first to pick up on changing their vibration because they are a much more pure source. They don't have that bias that human beings do.
Right.
They just
Right.
don't. They're unconditional love. That's why we love animals. They're unconditional love. They don't have that other crap that we have that's conditioned.
Right.
And so when this change starts, they'll adapt. Animals and children, small children will adapt to it the easiest because they're a much more pure source of that. And so animals will stop being so predatory towards each other. You start seeing a lot of animals helping each other, not eating each other in extreme circumstances. And what you'll also start noticing too is that those who do raise their vibrations, you'll start to almost develop a telepathic connection with animals.
Hmm.
So like, me and my dog have this thing that we always laugh. Like he goes down to my son's room and scratches on his door every day, 5 minutes before dinner. I don't say a word. He just knows. He just started doing it. You know what I mean? So you'll start to notice that. And then you'll also start noticing that when you raise your vibration, that animals, if they're in need, will just find you, because they can just feel that. And you'll start having just kids and animals show up. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Awesome stuff. Oh boy. Well, we are like an hour and a half into the show. Uh, there's got to be more. I mean, I know there's something there that.
Go
So
down every rabbit forever. Never end.
yeah, I mean, So if there's something that you really want to tell people, or really, what would that something be at this point?
Jeez. I would say it's really simple. That, I think everybody. I didn't think it was real. I mean, here's what I tell people that I love, because I think that those of us who are aware, anybody watching your channel is acutely aware, or they wouldn't be watching your channel. And
Exactly, right.
They think you're crazy. We trigger them, right?
Right.
And so here's what I say, because the people in my physical environment that I love the most gave me the hardest time, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. So I'm like, if you love me, I couldn't get it. But so many people that write me are in that same boat. And so here's what I would say. Lots of us were put into biological or geographical positions on purpose because we have a natural higher vibration. And even though we couldn't see the overall picture at the time, that's going to start getting easier and easier. And there is, no matter what I was going to show, I told my people, I just wanted to give hope to people. I just wanted, here's what I said. I can't tell you what this is exactly. I can't. But what I can do is share my experiences openly, honestly, and transparently as possible, and just help that helps somebody in some way,
Sure.
And so that I would just say is that, the biggest thing, like the Morgellons thing, I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because most people won't touch it. Most people won't touch it. Right. And I think right now is a pivotal moment because so many people who were not aware that process was happening to them are becoming aware that there is a physical process happening. And when they go to type in their symptoms, they're going to be led to one place mostly, and that's Morgellons. And that's a scary place to be. Like I said, I think it's a narrative controlled place. And so I wanted to get something else out there just to give them a different perspective. And like I said, it's so easy. It comes down to one thing. It's love. I mean, it's hokey and it's cheesy, but it's love. It's right. Really, when people ask me, what are the two things that you think really helped you the most? I just love. Every day, even during the worst of my moments, I say, I'm just going to love, and I'm just going to try and help people in the best way that I can, regardless of what the situation is. And that's what I held on to in my darkest effing moments. You know what I mean? And we all have them. But when you do that, you set this intention, and it just makes everything so much easier. And that's really all it takes, because a lot of people are afraid they're going to be left behind, or they're not doing it right. You're not doing it wrong. Nobody can do it wrong. There's no book that's wrong. You can't do it wrong. So please don't think that.
Right.
Nobody's going to be left behind. There's too many people that are going to try and help you, and I think more and more are going to come forward. Every single person, nobody's more special than the next. If somebody's telling you that they're a guru and you have to do it their way, or you're not doing it right, it's such crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody has a beautiful, special puzzle piece to add to this, and that's how we get the overall puzzle, and that's how we help others. So, it takes all of us, in this way, but everybody's got to do it in their own way. And just, if you have a bad day, get up the next day knowing you can make your next day better. You're not locked into anything. You get to start over each day in a way that we really didn't get before, and so just have hope. That's my thing. Hope for a better day, regardless of what anybody else is telling you.
Well, it's funny, because when you talk about this and stuff, it keeps bringing back to my mind how people now, especially in this society, in this generation, in this day and age, we are so fast-paced. Everything is about work. And we're being pushed, and we're being shoved, and we're being told we have to do this, and you got to pay this guy and pay that guy. And it's just wonderful. From the minute you wake up in the morning to the minute you go to bed, you're nonstop chaos, period. I mean, it's just remarkable how people even survive on a daily basis, okay? Now, with that being said, and I've seen researchers talk about this and stuff, with that kind of stress on people, everyday people, it's bound to make a physical change on you, which I think is where this all ties together also. I mean, it's all part of this process, all part of this puzzle. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people really need to take time out every day if they can. And, I mean, what's an hour? If you can give yourself even 15 minutes would be better than nothing. But sit down and do a relaxing, breathing style meditation, or just lock yourself in a closet or something. Just get away from the noise and whatever it takes to do it. Right, exactly. But get yourself into yourself. The hell with the outside world, right? I mean, and to me that will be like a first step or a good first step to process on. I mean, to get yourself back where you need to be. But but a lot of people won't know how to do that either. I mean, that's the thing. It's a hard transformation, so to speak.
That's where that unprogramming from the narrative comes in, because they set it up like that on purpose. It's exactly what you just said. It's the hugest step. That's the hugest step. Because when you are running on that hamster wheel and you're distracted and you're making money and you're giving it to all those people who not going to us, we're in that enslavement process. You know what I mean? And you don't have the time to go within. You don't have the time to figure out what makes you tick. You don't have, because you're too busy taking care of crap that it doesn't really mean anything in the end. Because like I said, if you die, are you going to be like, I wish I would have worked more hours. I wish I would have spent more time away from my family. I wish I wouldn't have gotten to know who I really was. I wish I stayed on those drugs for another 10 years. Nobody's going to say that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the hugest step is going within. And all the best, enlightened people, what did they say? They didn't say, you have to go to the church every day. They said go within. That's where you find your freedom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
But you can take 15 minutes. It doesn't, and I tell everybody you can do it a different way. There's no right way. It doesn't have to be in a, lotus position, chanting alms. It doesn't have to be that. Like, it can be listening to music. It can be, washing your dishes. It's just finding that place that you can, whatever works for you, detach from all the other crap.
Exactly. I mean? Detachment. That's the word. Detach. Yeah. Be with yourself and yourself only. Yeah. And I know with some people you got 5 kids running around the house and, blah, 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 whatever, but, take a time out when they're in school or something, or I don't know, but there's got to be some moment, some few minutes of the day somewhere where there's nobody around and you can just say, just collapse in the middle of the floor. I mean, that's all it takes, And
spirit will help you with that. If you can't figure it out for yourself, spirit will help you, because all of a sudden most of us are becoming nocturnal. So you'll have time during the night when you're not going to be able to sleep, so to have that private time that you didn't make time for during the day. If you can't work it out, it'll work out for you.
Right. That's
a funny
awesome.
way of going that way. Yeah, a lot of us have seemed to have come to this nocturnal thing where we're just having a very hard time sleeping during normal hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Which takes away, now see, that's my problem, is I'm working all these hours. I'm working a 12-hour shift every single day. So by the time I get home, I get dinner in me, grab a shower if I can or whatever, I'm back in bed, and then I'm up in another 5 hours. I mean, that's literally how it works, and it's just crazy.
People need to understand too. I'm sorry. Yeah, people, I just was thinking, because you're in such a major position right now, that my guy's in that position. Leo, stop it. And a lot of other people are. And what people need to understand too is you are fatigued more now than you have ever been.
Absolutely.
Because these energies coming in are insane. So we need more sleep now than we've ever needed. So yeah, I'm amazed you can even pull this off, because I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd be exhausted.
I tell you, I'm amazed at myself sometimes, and I went down back in December. I was, I had pneumonia and stuff like that and whatever, and it's taken me a while to rejuvenate, which I'm really impressed, honestly, with my body and stuff, how well I've come along in the past, few months or whatever. I'm still not 100%. I'm not going dancing or running a marathon by any means, but, but like I tell people, is I had to stop. It was like a crossroads for me, because I actually had to stop myself and say, wow, you're going to kill yourself, literally, because of all this stress and all this other stuff and blah, 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 So I do these shows and I keep up with these, or at least I try to, to bring people together, show them the awareness of what's going on out there, and different other things. But this is like my relax time, so to speak. This is how I recoup, And without all these lovely people that I have that watch the show and listen to me and do whatever, I probably wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? It'd be a whole different deal. But I want to thank them all.
When you give back, too, it does something to further this process along. Sorry, I put mute on to my dog when he barks. Somebody asked what kind of animals I have. I have a Doberman, a cat, and I used to have a bunch of ferrets, but they've all left at this point. But my Doberman is still loud, so sorry, everybody. But when you give back, it spurs this process on, and it helps the process, and you get more by giving back.
Right. He's cute.
Sorry, he's so loud. Like the decibels is like literally staggering.
Of course.
Stop it. And he everything.
That's funny.
But, yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm so sorry. Sorry, hold on.
This is real life, folks. This is this is what happens. It's cute.
Sorry, I had to man that a little bit.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just telling.
Wrap it up. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. I was just telling people, you know, this is real life. This is what happens in real life. So there you go. You know, not a problem. No, don't apologize. You know, we can laugh. So.
I see like one thing. You see Leo pop off at least once during every live stream. Like he buys it everything. Or a single mother with small children. A Doberman is the best security guard you could ever have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah, but yeah, really appreciate having the opportunity though, just to share my perspective. Like I said, I think it's really important as more and more people become aware that there's something happening. Now, at least, like I said, at least the discussion's on the table. Whether everybody agrees or they don't, whatever, but at least we should be able to talk to each other openly and discuss it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. As for anything, are you having any type of issues as far as the outside world right now? I mean, with your thing going on, do people bump into you on the street and say, what's this all about? I mean, blah, 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 or do they run away from you? I mean...
Generally, it's an interesting process. What I tell people, I can't say for a lot of other people, but everything's changing. I don't know. Like, I tend to have such a weird, like I said, it's really through the looking glass for me in a lot of ways. Not only do I just have this weird physical process happening, you'll notice on a few of my last videos showing the physical process that you'll hear sound distortions, frequency distortions now when I get really close to my hands sometimes, or even light fluctuations when I'm doing light videos. A lot of people will notice that if I get close, like my hands will affect the light will change. That even happens when I drive under street lights. Like they'll either dim or go brighter sometimes.
Wow.
It's I affect, but I always have. Now I think that happens to some people too. But when I used to be younger, I would walk into a room and pop light bulbs. When I get upset, I break electronics. It was always part of my deal, but it's gotten just ridiculous at this point. But I noticed people are just naturally, one of two things happen. When I walk in somewhere now, I have to plan extra time. I always had people just tell me the most random things and confide in me. So I could be at the Rite Aid and somebody will tell me their deepest, darkest secrets in line for whatever reason. I'm like, oh boy, okay, I was trying to buy some pop, or, but back in the day I don't drink pop anymore, but whatever it was, okay, thank you for sharing, like, good luck. I go, okay. But now it's like, people are just, those people that are awakening or awakened will find each other. They'll just feel your vibe, and they'll either smile at you, they'll start a conversation with you. Sometimes people will come up to me that are just waking up, and they'll ask me some of these questions that they don't have anybody else to ask.
Right.
They'll just, like in the Jews aisle, they'll just start this random conversation about the weirdest stuff, but because I'm open to it, it's like they felt that energy. And then, some people, though, will not want to look me in the eye, and they don't want to see that. It's like they're just repulsed, like magnets almost. They're repulsed by my energy.
Wow.
I haven't done anything.
And
they'll
maybe
just exit immediately. Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, I see that a lot myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Being empathic, you probably noticed they have really icky energy.
Yeah, no.
I didn't want to say that, but most of those people have energy that I don't really want around me anyways. Yeah, so
absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because I've talked about this many times on other shows and stuff too, where I can spot negative a mile off anymore. I mean, and it's not really that I see it, it's just I feel it. And I know I'm coming into a bad place, you know what I'm saying? And so I try to kind of veer around it, and, sometimes I make it through, sometimes I don't. I mean, it just depends on the day and, whatever happens, but it's kind of ironic. But
right. And you'll notice that it's easier and easier, with these energies, because everything's just going to become clearer and clearer, and your abilities will get more discernible or more advanced,
right.
And so I think a lot more people will just start trusting themselves a lot more. And we've been taught not to trust ourselves.
Right.
So that's a huge part of this process, is just learning how to. And I think for me, you know, I mean, like you said in the beginning, you were a little skeptical of my own stuff. I second guessed my own stuff. I can't tell you how many times I would put something out and then pull it back, or go to put it out and not put it out, because I thought, well, what if it is my makeup, even though I knew I hadn't put makeup on in 3 days? Well, what if it is sweat, even though I knew my hands weren't sweaty? You know, like you talk yourself down, and so it takes a long time to just start to trust ourselves again, you know. And so I think once you start doing that, you know, everything just changes and it just starts to get better. You know, I think when I started hearing, you know, anybody in our genre hears a lot of those videos that say, you know, there's this wonderful thing coming and finances won't be an issue and everybody will live happily ever after. It's going to be great. Oh, great. And we all go, oh, yeah, okay, right? Because that's never happened for me. But what I can say is the more, I mean, it's crazy. The things starting to happen in my actual physical reality are so synchronistic and so outside of the box and so just like exactly what I asked for at that moment, that there's just, you know, like I tell people this example about, you know, going to the store and then saying, I really don't think I knew I could buy the supplies I needed, but I was like freaking out because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have enough money to even put gas in my car after this. But I stopped myself and I said, you know, I talked to myself out loud a lot. And I said in the frozen food section as I'm walking to the self-check, stop. That's part of the, you need to reprogram your lack mentality, girl. Trust that when you need money, if you're doing the things you should be doing, the universe will provide it. Just trust that. And I took 5 steps. I counted them later because I went back and went, oh my God. 5 steps to the self-check, and hanging out of the cashback part was a $20 bill.
Oh
now,
my goodness.
normally I wouldn't. Yeah, normally I was like a slot machine. I was like, woohoo! But no, normally I wouldn't take that, obviously, because it's not my thing. You know, but as I'm standing there looking, I'm analyzing the situation, and I'm like, first of all, I never use that one. You know, and I can't use a different one because the one I normally use is literally broken. It's not literally, and I've never seen that happen before. Every other one is taken. That's never happened before at that time of night. The chick who would normally grab it that works there is completely not available, and that's never happened when I've been here at night. And I just said, I'm going to let the universe give me money if I need it. So I was like, I'm taking the $20. You know,
why not?
But not right? Like, but my point is, I went to that same store like a week later or 2 weeks later, and I shared that story on my channel. And, you know, you think, well, maybe it's still one-off, whatever. Maybe that's just a coincidence still. Maybe I was just a jerk for taking $20 that somebody had left in the cash back. But as I'm literally almost in the same exact spot, I started to do the same thing. Because that's about the time I'm thinking payment, right?
Right.
I'm like, I know I can pay it, but then I start thinking of all the other bills I have, and oh my gosh, my finances, and this and that. And then I said the same thing, stop. We went through this last time. And so I look over at the self-check, and I'm like, is there 20 sticking out? And I'm like, oh, sad face. No. But it's funny, though, synchronistically, what I didn't know is right at that exact moment, because I went back and looked at the time of my receipts, and when I checked out, somebody donated money into my PayPal, and it, you know, and it worked itself out that way.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. But people will get their own examples that catch their attention in whatever way that will catch for them. Something like that would be an epiphany for me. It would really trigger for me.
Sure.
For somebody else, they'll say that's a coincidence, it doesn't mean anything. But something else will work that way for them. So, you know, each will get it their own way.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because I watch these people every single day run in and out of the casinos and doing the scratch-off tickets and the lottery tickets and the blah, blah, blah. And I've done them. Don't get me wrong. I think everybody's done them, you know, a few times in their life. I just don't make a big habit of it. But there's a story that I could tell you back when I was in the truck driving business back in the day and I owned my own rig. I had to camp out at a small truck stop casino one night because I was out of money, literally. I had to wait for the weekend in order for Monday to come around so I could load my card back up with, you know, with brokerage money, so to speak. So here I am, no fuel. I couldn't run the truck for heat. I was going to be frozen that night. All kind of crazy stuff was happening. And I went into this casino and I had a $20 bill in my pocket. And I wanted to get something to eat, so I went and I sat down and I ate, and I wound up with like $12 left over, whatever, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I happened to walk by this one machine, and I'm thinking, should I or shouldn't I, you know? So I took $1 and I put it in there, and that $1 became like $10. So I just kept kind of playing it on. Well, I got said and done. I was up like $50. I'm thinking, wow, this is great, you know, good deal. I'm going to cash out. I'm done. That's it. Lady luck. does not follow Clarence Mitchell. Okay, this is not how it works. So I was really fortunate, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. On my way out, when I went up to cash this, one of the casino operators came up to me. She says, "You should really try this machine out right here." You know, she says, whatever, it should hit pretty soon. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, it's kind of like a poker machine kind of thing, whatever. So I'm up $50. All right, one more dollar won't kill me. I put it in, $1,500. $1,500. I couldn't believe it. I gave her a $50 tip. Yeah, I gave her a $50 tip, and I walked out, and I said, never again. That's it. But that's just one of those things that happen, right? Lady luck. What was it? The gods fell on me that night. Whatever. But the point was, I was in a destituted place. I did something out of the norm that I normally don't do, and it worked. I mean, it was just, whatever. So
a lot of people, I tell a lot of people, and even with me in my story, some of us have to get to that point, and a lot of us do, where you surrender. And sometimes we have to be put in really bad situations before we do.
Absolutely.
Before we just say,
yeah,
we've done all we can do. This is out of my hands at this point. I have to just give up control because I don't have any anyways, really. So what happens? Hope for the best. And then, funny though, how a lot of times that's when things kick in. And you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this a while ago.
Right. And it was funny. It was like, my wife at the time, I called her on the phone and I told her what had happened, and then she laughed. She goes, "Go back in and play again." I go, "No. If I do that, I would lose it all. I guarantee it would never. This is something. This is a gift. I looked at it as a gift. I was spread. I put fuel in my truck, and I went on down the road and made it where I had to go, and everything was just great. From that point on. So it was just, yeah. I mean,
wise decision. You probably would have lost it all because you would have failed the test.
Absolutely.
It was.
Yeah, I agree.
Circumstances that she came up to you, she said this machine's going to hit soon. I mean, really? Like, all of those things had to line up just right.
Right,
so.
Yep. And normally when someone says that to me, I just like, yeah, they just want more of my money. That kind of a thing. And I wouldn't even bother with it. But not that particular time. It was really strange because I was out of my norm. I never do these kinds of things, just like you said, and I just so happened did it, and bang, wow, really? So,
and I think part of it is a test to trust our intuition and to see if we will listen to those. And I tell people, when this process starts coming online, everybody's intuition, or your higher self, whatever you want to say, the voices, it starts coming in. But here's what we're trained in. This is the problem. We get trained that ego voice, the fear voice. You can't do it. Don't be stupid. Go back in and spend that money. Right. Go ahead, only spend 20, and then we know 20 turns into the whole thing, and then you're like, I lost it all.
Right.
But yeah, the intuition voice is a very small, quiet nudge. Mm-hmm. Don't you want to just try, to go outside the norm? Yeah, right. Those kinds of. So when you start, it's hard to hear that voice because we've been so programmed into letting the other voice be everything.
Right.
That fear voice. You're not good enough. You can't do it. Don't be stupid. Don't trust yourself, right? Mm-hmm. You need Western medicine, right? But when you start trusting the other voice, guess what? Here's the great thing. The ego voice starts to shut up a little bit and get quieter. It's not as irritating, and the other voice gets a lot easier to hear. Yeah. Well,
it's ironic because, people say, the gods are looking down on you that night and whatever. And I actually have to say yes. I mean, that's, and I use the word gods loosely, okay? But you know what I'm getting at. The spirits were with me or whatever, and they were guiding me, and I take that to heart. I really do. I wish it would happen more often, but, it is what it is, right? But I think,
it's funny.
But I think they're always around you regardless. And I think it's just when you're at that specific time of need and place and whatever is when they actually interact. I mean, I think they give us all the opportunity in the world to do what we need to do to change, but sometimes we just don't quite make it. And they know that you're trying, but, and I think that's when they actually give you that helping hand kind of thing,
I was told because Earth is a free will planet, they uphold that. It's kind of like that Star Trek, we don't interfere in somebody else's stuff. Mm-hmm. And, they say that basically they come in when we allow it. They say we can't outright change your stuff necessarily, just say, oh, we're going to fix all your problems. We can't do that. But when you get to that place where you're like, please help me, and sometimes we don't do it consciously, but when we get to that place where we're at, like you said, that down moment, unconsciously we're like, I could really use some effing help now, right?
Right.
So that's when they can really come in and work in our best and highest good. And I think that'll be easier and easier coming up.
Yeah, I honestly believe that. I love that stuff. It's crazy.
I would have been with you. I'd been out at 15. I wouldn't have gone back anywhere.
No, absolutely not. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And I often wondered afterwards, because I said no or whatever, if it wasn't them actually stopping me from doing it too, you know what I'm saying? Because a normal person would have ran right back in there, but you know. But
yeah. Somebody who recognized the gift, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, right.
Exactly. But yeah, oh, what a day that was, or what a night that was. It's funny.
That's a good night. I agree. I wish that would have happened a little more often. I'm completely there with you. Maybe still. Yeah, maybe still would be great.
Awesome. Oh boy, I'm not sure. What's that?
So that went fast.
Yeah. I'm not sure where to go from here. You know, we were talking about the other stuff here. Let's see here. There was a couple.
It was like, is there any questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Is anybody in the live chat here? I can look over real quick. Anybody got any questions for Toni or anything going on?
Like, I'm sure I can come back another time and we can go down another 1,000 rabbit holes and see what happens. But yeah, I really appreciate being able to just, like I said, discuss these things, because I think so many people, everything we touched on tonight, there's thousands of people talking about, thousands of people who want to talk about it, but are, maybe not wanting to come publicly because they don't want their loved ones to think they're crazy. Right. So it's, for everything we say, there's a lot of people who can resonate with it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's just with everything, though. I talk to people about UFOs and visitations and stuff, and and it's really ironic because at work they know me, they know what I do here. They know I have an online radio show and all this stuff, and a lot of them won't come near me at work, because of it. It's kind of funny, but yet I get them few that meet me in the parking lot and say, hey, I seen something in the sky last night, or blah, blah, and they strike up these conversations. And it's really funny, So I just kind of laugh about it, but that's how it goes. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Until they see something, then they want to talk to you first. Right.
Right, yeah. Like I'm the guy, I'm the go-to guy now, It's really funny.
You're not crazy because it happened to them. Exactly.
Right, exactly, So it's really ironic how it works. But I love that. I mean, that's, and I tell them, hey, I did a show about this, check this out, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll go home, they'll watch a YouTube video of mine, or they'll go back to my old podcast and listen in, and they're like, wow, you had an amazing show on that. Yeah, that was really cool, So the word gets out one way or the other, and that's what we do here, And I got fantastic guests like yourself and different other things, and it just keeps it going. And it's just, great stuff. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Like I said, I think these are important topics, and it's planting those seeds, that just helps other people. Like I tell people, because a lot of people ask me too in the beginning of this, and whether it's with what I show or, any topic, really UFOs or anything, it's like whatever I say, everybody has an original rabbit hole that wakes them up, so to speak. It could be anything. Some people it's flat earth, some people it's UFOs, some people it's, me and my stuff. And it's like when you wake up, though, you're just like, you want to go out there and beat everybody over the head because you think, you got to see what I saw. You got to wake up right now, right? And that's just not how it works. It's just people look at you like you said. Your coworker's nobody's gonna want to be around you. You're gonna become the crazy person. That's so right. The best thing you can do, because people ask me, well, what can I do to wake people up? I said, just plant little seeds. Like you said, tell them about your show and leave it. And if they watch it and then come up to you in the parking lot, awesome. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, that's about all you can do. Because people are going to come to it in their own time. And if you push on it and they're not ready, you're going to build resistance, and then it's going to take much longer for them to come around to that.
It's really cool. Really cool. Alrighty. Well, that's our 2-hour episode as far as everything's going here. I mean, we can go beyond that if you like, if you got something else you want to bring up or anything,
I think what I would just say is, on a closing note, I would love to, maybe come back and do it again. My energy is a little off today, so I do apologize. Clarence knows, but I had an interesting weekend with these intense energies coming through. What I would just warn everybody about, maybe a little forewarning. We're in the middle of this triple eclipse kind of thing coming on, and the last one is coming in, close to 8/8. It's a major, huge energy that's passing through right now, and so a lot of people will be faced with issues that they thought maybe they had dealt with, put on a shelf that they thought were fine, and then something might come out of nowhere. Or for people who maybe are like me, like you, are really out there trying to make these really positive changes or ripples. I call them ripple effects. Wake other people up, plant those seeds. You will notice, I mean, I hate to use the word light worker, but if you could say that, you might be getting attacked out of nowhere within this next week-ish with these intense energies, because other people are putting their projections on you. But you just be careful in that, and just make sure you're really grounded. And if you have something really high drama show up, sometimes you can't stop yourself from reacting. That's kind of what happened to me. It's something I thought I dealt with came up, and I got attacked out of nowhere. And it's probably the one place. I mean, I really thought I had forgiven everybody. I had no secrets. I really dealt. I was my authentic self. I really preaching, living my life the way that I tried to tell other people to do it. But this one thing, if anything could have hit me, it was this one thing, which is attacking my mothering from somebody who has no right to say anything about it. But I reacted in a way I thought I was really surpassed at this point, so it kind of shocked me even. But my point is that everybody might be getting hit with that in a different way. So just kind of be aware of that, and just know in this next week, take time out for you. Oh, I'm sorry, Leo. Take that time. Yeah, take a sick day from work if you're not feeling well. Just be loving and supportive to yourself before anybody else.
Very good words. Very good words. Okay, Toni. I want to thank you so much for being on here tonight. And like I said, the Facebook live stream especially is full of all your fans and and people who follow the show and stuff like that. Quick shout out to Gail and Sharon and Tim and Lee and my mother. She was in tonight, obviously. Daryl Perry and all you folks. And I know I'm missing a lot of people. I'm sorry. But the list just goes on and on and on. And it's just fantastic of the group that are with us, and they love everything that you do and, whatever. And it's fantastic.
Soul family.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're all one big family. Absolutely, I agree with that. Absolutely. I did want to mention also, Omar has been out of the realm, so to speak. He is on a journey. Any of you know him from Watchers Talk. I do a lot of co-hosting with him and a lot of webinars with Omar. Just an awesome person to deal with. He is going to be doing a show Saturday. Actually, it's going to be a double header. And I can't remember now who the guests were. I'm sorry, it totally slipped my mind. But please, everybody, keep in look for Watchers Talk to going live. If you haven't joined his group, whatever, you can check it out on my page. Go to watcherstalk.com, join up with him. He's got some really cool stuff going on. And he's really into something right now that I can't mention it. I can't tell you what it is or whatever. But I tell you what, when it breaks through, it's going to be mainstream. I'm telling you right now, it is awesome. Just totally awesome. Yeah.
I completely validate. Yeah, I love Omar. Any of my people, check him out. He's got amazing stuff. I love him too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you would hang on just for a few minutes, Toni, I'm going to spin this camera back around, and we're going to sign out of Spreaker here real quick, and we'll say our goodbyes and whatever, and then I'll chat with you just a few minutes after the show there. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Good night, everybody. I love you.
There you go. Alrighty. So let me get this set back up here real quick. And I'll spin it around. There we go. Okay, there we are. Hello, folks. I know. Better looking than, she's better looking than I am, no doubt about that, right? Oh,
I don't think.
Okay. Like I said, just a quick update. Let people know I got a new web page up. www.closerencounters.space. If you guys would please go in, look at it, tell me what needs to be, if there's something in there you want to see, let me know, and I'll put it in there. I'm also taking photographs, videos, whatever. If you guys witness something, whatever it is, send it to me via email. That's all posted, of course, in my webpage, closerencounters.info@gmail.com. send it to me. I'll be glad to post it for you so people can see what you're seeing and stuff like that. Any kind of new books you have written or podcasts you got going, whatever. I am here to promote you as well. So please do that, okay? Tell me what you think. Hello, Jillian. How are you, dear? glad to see you. Fantastic person. Yeah, there's all kind of things in there I added. People's other websites and stuff. You want to check it in. Jillian actually is in there. Tony's in there. Everybody's YouTube videos are in there. You know, their sites and stuff like that. So if you would, please just check it out. Let me know what you think. You know, blah, blah, blah. I really would appreciate it. So with that all being said, I want to wish everybody a great night. And I am so glad that you were with us. I know it's been a while, but, you know, we've been making some changes like we talked about before. And it's all for the good. All for the good. So with that being said, I'm going to sign out now out of Spreaker, and peace be with you, and thank you all very, very much for being here. Thank you all for listening to Closer Encounters. Please remember to like, follow, and share. And until we meet again, keep your eyes to the skies. Thank you.